never used to wear gloves. You know, these used to be horny old hands when I was gardening every day, 5 days a week, doing no office work or any fine stuff. And I never ever would have thought, in fact, it was honestly really to wear gloves. You know. But nowadays, where I do much less of that, my hand and my skin is softer, I actually find it useful to wear gloves. But only very thin gloves, and this high flex glove, to me, fits the bill. And when they're done, when they've seen a several days work, and they start to get holes in them, you bung them away, and take another one, put it back. An interesting sideline, however, and I had a discussion with a grower about this the other day, and I'm not wishing to score points, by the way, this is a different story. But he said, when we use John Innes composts and peat composts, you never ever heard of people becoming infected with dangerous diseases. And yet we've had, 2 deaths in the last year from people, and it has all come from composting in a bag, multi-purpose or otherwise. I don't know whether you've been to see the composting process that is used nowadays for producing from home waste. It is precise, and yet it's very imprecise when you consider the trouble we used to go to sterilise loam before we used it for composts. And that's another good reason why, if you are handling soil and composts and/or composts, probably you should wear gloves of your own choice. I mean, in the winter time, the thermal gloves I use because I'm not doing finicky sort of jobs. But these you can tie roses in with these on. You don't need to take your gloves off to tie the knots. I mean, they are quite sensitive, and yet they're not quite so throwaway as the sort of surgical gloves. So that's me explaining myself, and I make no apologise for doing so. These I find are invaluable. So, where does it all start? Well, it all starts with cultivating a bit of ground. And just like making a meal and setting the meal out on the table on a clean cloth, with clean knives, forks, spoons. And I have to say the standards have gone down very, very badly. People leave their work, stick the tools in the shed, walk away and leave. In the good old days, it's quite a long time ago, 5 minutes at the end of the day was to clean the tools, make them ready for tomorrow. And so much so that when I worked on the staff docking crew, each member had his own set of tools, basic tools, in casing, you know, and they were inspected from time to time. Not regularly, but when we were there, somebody was going to look at it. And it was a matter of pride to be able to take the tools out in the morning and are ready to go. And as I used to say to people when I was front on and doing the gardening and the digging, I said, if you keep the spade clean, it'll go itself. The soil slides off and over, give it a wee flick and it's there. So this is my original spade. This spade is over 50 years old. No, it's not. It's this flat. Dear me, you can tell I'm losing the place already. 2 or 3 things about it. You can tell the length of it, that it has done a lot of work over years. You know, it's probably that length when it was new. It's got treads, which when you've got a lot of digging to do is a great advantage compared with the spade with no tread. That is a good thing for a song. The spade with no treads. It's getting worse. The other thing I find, and it's maybe a bit of refinement, but how many new tools have been invented in the last 50 years? And I'm talking about a span, this is 50 years, a span of time like that. So only one, I would say, has actually cracked it, and is actually better than what's there before, and that's the swope. I don't know whether you know the swope. It's the Wilkinson Dutch hoe with 3 sides to it, each one slightly sharper and sharper. Very light in weight, it can be pushed and pulled, pushed and pulled. I think that's the best improvement on the Dutch hoe that we've seen, and possibly as a lasting new piece of kit, the best I could point to. Look at the set. This is the other point I'm about to say. Look at the set, i.e. the angle of that to that So when I put that in the ground, it's not too difficult to get it down almost straight. Some of the tools that you see, spades that you see nowadays, you've got to lean it forward, away forward there, to get it to go down straight. The set is wrong, and that, to my mind, it doesn't pay dividends if you're doing a day's work with it. So that is paired with this fella next to it, the digging fork. And the main point I want to make about it, this guy is made for hard work. It's got strong tines, they're well spaced, it's got a good shaft, and I do like these D handles, I have to say. And you notice that I think all of them are D handles. The other thing I would say too, and this is, I think, where it sometimes shows inexperience, even on behalf of some of my fellows, professional level state. Tackling a piece of ground that is consolidated, and you see them knocking their guts out and nearly breaking their wrist by using a spade, because a spade's for digging. This is the boy to do the job. If you're on to consolidated ground where there's been a lot of traffic, bad weather, this is the boy to break it up. This is the boy that will go down and into it, and then if you need to dig and clear the space and so on, you turn to the spade. But this is a hard-working piece of kit, and it's far, far better for so many jobs. I think of people, I see them in new houses with compacted soil. They almost need a drill to get down through it. It's far I'll tackle it with less energy than with a spade. We did a community garden last year up at near Beaulieu at the writer's workshop, and we did a bit of planting when all the canvas had gone, and some nice bit of planting with a group of people there, and eventually I had to get them to work in pairs. One of them made the hole or loosened the ground where the plant was going and then moved on, and the next one came along, scooped it out with the spade and got the plant. Otherwise they were absolutely in danger of doing themselves an injury trying to put the spade in the ground when it was like a tarred road almost. So these two go hand in glove. You go out to do a bit of work and you take the two of them with it. One if it's necessary. The other point being that if it's stony ground, you have a far better chance of getting round the stone with that than you are with a spade. I have to confess, of course, that with time, one's abilities become slightly less vigorous. And so, my favourites are the border spade, so-called, and I've knackered this one by trying to get it to do the job that one can do. You notice it's got a little bit more and that will burst off there. But it's a lovely spade, and it introduces another convenient point, stainless steel. Extremely good, and for those of you that are not a mind to clean properly, they are a bit more easy to clean. For planting, getting in amongst plants, borders and so on, this, and without a shadow of doubt, my favourite tool of all time is this wee fella. This is the border fork, sometimes referred to as a lady's fork, but that would be politically incorrect nowadays, wouldn't it? Yes. Oh, I'm wise, I can't about you inside. Border fork, not a lady's fork, because I use one all the time. Absolutely stunning for going through between plants, cleaning the soil, and so on. And there we have it, absolutely. And that's, I've been using that for 50 years. It's absolutely stunning. So these are the basics. And at any time, if anybody wants to interrupt or disagree, please do so.